Ladies and gents, today I have the distinct honor and privilege of interviewing a man that I have admired for probably a decade, 10 years, maybe more, Skip, because
Well,
uh,
that's nice of you. I retired from competitive bodybuilding for 13 years, so I must be staying relevant. If I caught your attention
yeah,
10 years ago,
right. And well, you won 5 NPC heavyweight titles, right?
I
Um,
won. Yeah, yeah, I won the Team Universe, right? That's the drug-tested nationals. I won my class 5 times there, and the overall twice. Yes,
yeah, I'm not like the last one that was 2003 then, right? 13 years ago, I guess.
right, right. 2003, I won the heavyweight class, right?
So I guess, and you would have what, 20, 25 years training experience or
25, right? Yeah, so it'll actually be 26 here in 2 months since the day I first started lifting. That's right.
so it's pretty safe to say that you know exactly what you're talking about. The first time I saw you was actually I was in a supplement shop here,
Yep,
and
I think we know what we're talking about, right? But if I look back, I thought I knew what I was talking about 5 years into the process, right?
right, that's it's always the case, you know.
Right.
Well, I was in a supplement shop and I saw you were on the cover of a magazine. It was an AST magazine,
Uh-huh.
and it was you and Jeff Bullitt. You're on the front. And you guys are standing like this, and
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
you remember that cover, right? And that was, I saw that magazine and I was like, wow, look at these guys. And you and Jeff. And I bought that magazine home and I read it over and over and over. Because I had no muscle at that point, nothing. And I kind of just, I admired that. And your philosophy ever since has been very similar to mine. I'm into the personal development as you are, and self-improvement, you think so. Anyway, your philosophy, well, let's get into your philosophy of training first. As far as I'm concerned, there's two components equally important. There's the stimulation of the muscle. Then there's the other part that nobody talks about, which is recuperation. It's the component that everybody forgets, you know. But let's start at the stimulation. You believe in taking a set to muscular failure, right? Or you call it absolute failure, right?
Yeah, one thing that, Mark, that I've learned in my years of training that, you know, everything is relative. Nothing has any value unless you compare it to something else,
Mhm.
right? And this is where that mindset that you know all about personal development comes in. So absolute failure, complete failure, you can't do one more. I mean, that's so relative, right? So somebody's training hard, they're pushing themselves, they have a set of standards. And then what happens, they enter a contest, right? And now this contest has a lot of importance. And so they're in a whole different mindset. And what absolute failure was before, now they've raised their standards. And then once the mind expands and then the body follows along, now that's their new standard. And if they keep pushing themselves that way, the definition of absolute failure can change over and over again. So I may use that term, but I don't ride on that fact that I can do no more. Absolute
Right.
failure. It's more of a concept they are always shooting for, that you have that mindset, but it's very hard to actually concretely define, and I don't try to define it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, but the loose definition is you go until you can't do one more rep, right?
Right.
But again, that's just so relative, right? Uh,
Right.
the mindset is so important, like you said, is that, so you were following me back in the days where, once you win a national championship,
Mhm.
you want more and more and more, especially after I won a couple. And then, I try to add more things and maybe more of a personal life. Well, I can get by without this. I try to incorporate more business. And the more things you focus on, it happens, sometimes you slip back. And so then I
Mhm.
slipped back, which made me even more determined, right? So whatever my standards were before, I had the heat on me. Especially, I quit my full-time job to pursue this. And then the first, contest season after quitting my job,
Mhm.
I came in fifth place from fourth. And really, I heard that I tied for fifth place. And the only reason why I got to even pose at the night show is because I was Skip LaCour. I tied. That's what I was told by
Right.
Mike Katz of Pumping Iron fame. He was one of the judges. So it was very embarrassing, very, rocky 3 moment where I had to get back, to the basics, and I won the overall the next year. So all those defined standards of what I can and can't achieve, they constantly got raised. Here's the point that I'm trying to make is, so, back in those days, I did really intense cardio, 16 minutes of intense cardio, right? And I had everything online. I wanted to win a championship. I used to log and record for my members only website. And let's just say in that 16-minute period, I burned, 320 calories, just as a measure, just to measure your intensity. And so it ranged. I mean, some days it might be 330, probably the high of 343, but 316, 320. I remember because I would log it every single day for the people who followed me around. That was under extreme conditions where I would say that I wanted it the most. It was about 3 or 4 years after I retired from competitive bodybuilding. I really didn't have anything on the line. And I remember I started doing that same cardio. And just for one reason, I don't even remember, because at that time, so lifting wasn't as important. I didn't have to do it, but I pushed myself. And I just blew away my best number ever during my competing years by a significant amount, like a gigantic 30%. It just came out of nowhere. Well, then, if that's the new standard, I was doing that consistently for about 2 weeks. Did I go, did I get nervous before every session? Did I have to have my game face on every single stroke on that recumbent bike? Yes. That's how powerful the mind is, or it isn't, no matter what conditions you think. So, when I use those terms, people use those heavy, light, absolute failure. I'm not really a big stickler on what that means, because I found out that it means different things to different people. Does that make sense?
Sure. But that was the AST philosophy, the max OT cardio with the max OT training. Do you still do that 5-day split? Is that
I do a
how you
5-day
still
split. I don't follow that type of training. What I've used is because I got great results before I started training that way, but they really went to the next level when Max OT wasn't really formed yet. The internet wasn't even set up, right? It was just heavy training, 4 to 6 reps. And I used to split it up into 6 days a week because it wasn't a formal program at that time. It was just, a heavy philosophy. And so I got results. It's because that's what I'm saying. I can recommend ways, and I can sell you on what's the most effective and efficient way to train. But it really comes down to the person who's executing. It's not the training routine many times. So I was getting results because I was so determined before that type of training, doing, the typical training that you see everywhere, right? That most people do. But I will say that for my mindset, my personality, making it more of a sprint like that was ideal for me in my mindset. And the way my body could hold up. Some people, they get hurt when they start going that 4 to 6 rep range because they lift too heavy for their body. Their body could withstand it. So it was like a great training program for me. I'll tell you this, though, I believe, that I improved upon it. And the reason why is, I fielded questions from people about the Max OT training program for years. They would send me emails. I would create DVDs and everything like that. And then when I really got into the coaching, helping other people with their training goals, I would take advantage of technology, and I would have them record, their training routines. There are certain lifts, and I could pick them apart. I could be their virtual coach that way. The internet has made it great, so anywhere in the world. And I realized, I'm thinking, that's heavy to you? That's heavy? Because if you're just doing 4 to 6 reps, you're not taxing yourself, right? It's just 4 to 6 reps. If you're taking all this time off for recovery and you're training that way, you don't need to train recovery. So that's what people get confused with volume work and recovery. It's really dependent on how hard that guy pushes himself. Is he really in beast mode? Is he really a mass machine? Or is he just adhering to a training program the best he knows? Like I said, that's why I told the story that even someone who thinks he's as disciplined and as hardworking as me and intense under the most extreme conditions, I realized that I had more inside of me 3 years after I retired under easier conditions. That's how powerful the mind is, or how much we settle. So everybody's going through those conditions when they train. So that's why, people say, I use this routine. Is that good? Is that good? Do I need more time off? I'm at this age or whatever. Really the real answer is I don't know what you do. I would have to see it. I think going back to those people who I would train, those clients I would train, I would say, why don't you, I just want you to put in like some ridiculous amount, like 20, 25% more weight. And this is to a person who's been training, a while. So we're not talking about, some rookie, some newbie. And he would load it up just because, I built a rapport and he had confidence in me. And, maybe he just didn't do 6 reps, just a thing of beauty, but he got 3 or 4. And again, that mind got expanded. And that was a significant amount of weight. He could have stayed at that same amount of weight doing that 4 to 6 rep forever with the mindset. He would have never gotten to if I didn't make him do that significant bump. And that's how powerful the mind is. And that's how you set up every single training routine or program, recovery. It's so dependent on the person. And I have the vantage point. I have a unique experience of a lot of people coming to me for advice, where most people, they kind of go through their journey alone. And they may see some other people in the gym. And I'll tell you, if you're just halfway serious, there's nobody else in the gym, in your normal gym, who's as serious as you. If you're lucky, in your gym, you might have 2 or 3, but that's relative. Most people who will go out and spend their time learning about training, get coaching on training, they're probably more serious than anybody that they ever see training in their gym. Would you agree with that generally?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Someone thinking they're the hardest worker, or they're even close to the top, it's a big world out there. They have a very limited point of view, and it's all relative. See, my point of view of what I've seen people do, not to mention myself, I'm a better judge of what they can do sometimes than they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But there's that quote about a mind that is expanded beyond a certain point. It can never shrink back to the way it was before. Once you get out there, and you've expanded the boundary conditions.
Yes.
Because we all have a self-image and a self-concept. Right. And we are constricted by that self-concept. That will restrict everything we do and we think we can do, and what our level of motivation, our level of what we will think we're capable of doing. Okay. But if you can expand that boundary condition, you can never shrink back. You can never quite go back to the way you were before.
And even if it does, it's not going to quite fit the same. You're going to know that there's more inside you as there were before. You thought, hey, this is the most that I can do. Everybody else who can do more, they must be on drugs or whatever the rationalization is. But once you've done it, you're right. And that's in every area of life. You make a certain amount of money, you'll say, I can do that. Now, we all have to get whatever it is we want in life. Great relationships, business, making more money, or a great physique, have great workouts, lift a certain amount of weight. Just because we've done it, we still got to get up every single day and execute the actual physical disciplines and the daily tasks, right? We got to wake up with our game face on. But that mind has changed. You're right. That's why we always have to push ourselves and get out of our comfort zone. And if we can lop over instead of, I'm going to progress a little. If we can think big enough to think, 5 steps ahead, and even if we don't hit it, we could have saved a lot of time than doing it gradually. You know what I mean? So see that all the time with people on the internet, is that they choose a certain role model, right, who is believable to them. And that's all relative too. What if you were to pick someone who's just outrageous, right? That guy, the way he works, that physique, I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to model him. That's where I'm going to set my standard. Just it's the old saying, and we're taking it to the physical body. It's like the old saying, you shoot for the stars, you land on a mountaintop. You on a mountaintop, you land on the rocks down below.
Yeah, I was just talking about that yesterday with someone. That you only let yourself go in life you can only go as far as you let yourself go, and you only let yourself go as your self-image lets you go. If you can expand that self-image, or you get a role model that's even better than the one that you currently believe in, you can go a lot further, and you'll never know until you do it.
Yeah, I coach a lot of men, and not just training. Actually, I believe that when you get your mindset right, when you get the overall picture for your life together, I mean, the training and eating, that becomes easy, because that isn't your life. That's not the bullseye. It's just a step in the big picture. And when something becomes a step, we don't make it harder than it has to be, because really, we can debate over training strategies or eating strategies, and there's a reason why, people get results no matter what eating strategy or training strategy. It's not because of genetics, it's not because of drugs, it's because there's a lot of other factors that mental, physical, consisting, those type of things that can really, you can have a somewhat, I don't believe there's training strategies that are 10, that means everything else is a 0. I mean, the worst training strategy might be a 6 out of 10. And if you're persistent and consistent enough, you'll get a lot more out of that training strategy or diet strategy or whatever it might be than the guy who has supposedly the perfect 10, but he doesn't apply that, right? So, all these things matter, and it's really knowing what you really want for your entire life and why things are so important to you. And I get guys to key on, like, you want to get in shape. Why? Why is it important to you? What does it mean to you? Now, I've dealt with so many people, right?
Right.
I can guess their why, even if they don't understand it, right? Again, I come from a different vantage point. I work with men and women of all different ages, all different levels of success, all over the world, right? And I am having that much exposure for so long in my area of personal development and, training. We all kind of fall into certain patterns where it's not like everybody's the same, but there are certain patterns of thinking that we run into. And when I start as a coach, start connecting those patterns, you find all the commonality. And, many times it's not about the muscle or the ripped abs or the trophy. It's about what that means to them in their life. And I found out that in the best case scenarios, they'll say, oh, it means confidence, the foundation to the rest of my life, or whatever, right? Career or whatever. But it's really emotions that they want. And it's really like, to belong, to be happy, some connection with other people. That's why you see so many people in bodybuilding itself. I mean, everybody trains, everybody eats, everybody tries to build their physique. And each one of them gets something out of it. Some people don't really care about the trophy as much. They just love to be accepted,
Right. They're part of something.
They like to be part of a crowd. It's some type of emotion.
Right. We all, that's actually a human need.
Right.
What you're talking about there is, it reminds me of Tony Robbins. I've read a lot of his stuff, and one of his basic human needs is the need to belong to something. You notice this with kids. If there's something wrong with their family, they didn't grow up in a stable environment, they didn't have that sense of belonging to something, they will find it somewhere. But they'll probably find it then in something destructive. They'll join a gang or something for that need to belong,
right?
To feel part of something, So you can meet your needs in a positive way or a negative way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And when Tony Robbins talks about the human needs, there's the 6 human needs. He talks about that connection, belonging with other people. The challenge that it kind of balances out with that human need is also the need to stand out, to be special, unique, and different. And so if you just think about that, if you want to fit in, but you want to be special, unique, and different and stick out, right? Those two are going to fight each other, but we need them both. Now, everybody doesn't need them equally.
Yes.
You see in our bodybuilding and training world, right? Again, I've got a book coming out. It's a Matter of Trust, Confessions of a Recovering Bodybuilder. And I don't think there's anybody on the planet who has broken down the subject matter that I'm talking about why we train, what it means to us, and also the habits and the disciplines that we condition ourselves. Every rep, every workout, every day when we do our daily disciplines, it takes a certain skill set. That's what makes us special, unique, and different. That's what makes us more committed. And, I know everybody wants to have a better physique and bigger muscles, more ripped abs, a bigger title, but compared to the normal population, just getting ourselves to train 5 or 6 days a week, doing it for like a year straight, you already got yourself probably in the top 1% of the population if you really look around. And that takes a unique set of skills and a mindset to become one of those 1% or 5%. A lot of bodybuilders, they want to be special, but they've got this need to either appear humble or act humble or whatever. Basically, what I'm saying is that need to stick out, be different. Why would you do all this, right? But also to fit in, they're on this constant battle with each other. We find that in bodybuilding. Well, in my book, I talk about a lot of these success strategies. I'll give you an example, right? And I kind of alluded to it, and I've got dozens and dozens, right? You know, the mindset that you're never good enough. There's always a higher level with our physique. That's what drives us to get better and better, right? Or we would just, once one ab show, you know, the top two abs, we're already ahead of most people, we would stop. But it's not good enough. So it makes it better and better and better. That's why we stick out. But I'll tell you what, if you go to, you know, most bodybuilders, I mean, you know, think about this. If you went to them, hey, again, so Mark, give me a scale from 1 to 10, right? And just imagine what their body language would be like, what they would say in their attitude, right? If you went to most bodybuilders who, you know, they look the best in their gym, whatever, he said, damn, you look good, man. How long have you been training? You look good. What would be the attitude of, again, just the stereotypical lifter? I'm not talking about, you know, a Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman. I mean, the elite of, I'm talking about a regional guy, the guy in your city who's really working hard. Give me what your best acting impression of what he would say to me. Not if I said it, but just Joe Blow, average guy who doesn't train, said that about his body. How would he respond to that compliment?
Well, I don't know about where you're from, but for, you know, people hear that he's going to be, what he's going to feel is a sense of significance, specialness, right?
Right.
And he'd be like, thanks, bro. And he might offer some help, he might not, but he'll feel he'll get a bit of an ego boost from it. And it'll be a slap on the back kind of thing. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
but you'll feel that's
a very confident thing to say. I think most people would kind of blow it off. Oh, it's not, you know, you should see the other guy. You know, they play it down because they know there's higher level. But that's very helpful to get better and better and better. I mean, because when you're happy and satisfied, you either made it to the top and then you can, or, you know what I'm saying? I see that more often than not. Well, I'm good, you know, but.
You feel like that's a false humility kind of thing?
No, I don't think it's a false humility. I mean, you know, when I won my first show after 13 months, and I won like a regional show, my class or something. And, you know, I was very proud, but, you know, I had my eyes on a lot higher goals, right? And that's how I reached those higher goals. I wasn't satisfied, right? But the thing about it is in life, if you're always has that angst about you and you don't appreciate what you have, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the day-to-day opportunities because there's always a higher level. That's a mindset I think is really common with you know, people who really become dedicated into this lifestyle. Another thing, what they do is like their dependence on other people. They prefer not to depend on other people, and they own that, right? I mean, have you seen that from your experience?
Oh yeah, that's exactly the mindset of anyone that's in that zone, you know.
And so that's a good thing. That makes you a great lifter, a great physique. It's you against you. You do your best to block out the need for other people. Well, let me just tell you, that's not a good strategy to be happy in life. So there are a lot of strategies that we condition into our psyche, our mindset, our habits, rep after rep, meal after meal for years the longer we do it. And they're not applicable to success and happiness in regular life. Okay. And I talk to so many 40-year-olds and older people who have dedicated their life to fitness, a lot of personal trainers, they can't make that transition. And, you know, you're kind of promised when you get into this lifestyle that you can be disciplined and do this like most people can't. In this bodybuilding fitness lifestyle, you can do everything, anything, right? You've heard that before, right?
Right. I kind of experienced it too, to a degree, you know, at the beginning. You
experienced expanding into other areas?
Exactly. And especially the discipline, because when you can discipline yourself in this, you can discipline yourself in anything. If you can eat right, train right, that has positive carryover effects to the rest of your life.
Right. No, definitely. There's just no doubt about it. I guess my question is, and again, this is my experience with people I help, right? So it may not apply to you. And I come from a different vantage point, a more global vantage point, especially maybe older than, you seem like you're a little bit, what, early 30s or something?
35.
But okay, yeah. And so, my experience, uh, so I'm just curious, do you think that most people go on after they lifted for 10 years and now they're in their 40s, they go on to use that discipline to create a magnificent life? Would you, from what you've seen
No,
of the lifting world, do you see that generally happens?
generally, no. But me, yes.
Yeah,
Because I've got this whole library of books. I'm just like you, and
right.
I read Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins, and I've started to apply these lessons to other areas of my life, but it's not typical now.
Yeah, it's not typical, and that's why you have your own podcast and that type of
Right.
ambition. Um, Yeah, and so that's what my book is all about, is helping people identify the things that we made us great could be getting in the way of us moving on. Because again, from my vantage point, that I see a lot of people, they get into this limbo and their life doesn't progress. It's because they're kind of doing the same things over and over again. And social media has made it so that you can see your heroes. Your heroes that you grew up back when there were magazines watching, and you can see their life.
Right.
And you can see how much, are they still hanging out? Are they still posting pictures of them 30 years ago? Or would you want to live that life, right? So there's a lot of things I'm really passionate about, and that's one of them, right? And, it seems like this conversation is going personal development. We have that, common bond. It's my passion to make it an and situation, have a great physique, go for your goals. But you have to realize, Mark, is that it takes a lot to do this. There's just no doubt about it. See, that's a lot of lifters, they go, what? What's your excuse? Everybody should be able to do this. They see a fat person, right? Oh, geez, can you believe that person? All it takes is an hour a day. Who doesn't have the time to do that? Right? You hear that all the time amongst us extreme fitness people. Don't you agree? You hear that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They just
Yeah,
can't
it's very common.
fathom the fact that anybody just can't fit it in.
Right.
So the thing is that, so they act like it's just easy, that anybody can do it, right? Well, then if you say, oh, you look great, you could probably eat anything. You just got great genetics. If you were to say that to them, oh my, they would say, are you kidding? You know how much it took me to do this? I've been doing this for you. You don't know my sacrifice, right? Okay, so which one is it? Does it take a disproportionate amount of your willpower, focus, energy, and time to create this physique, or doesn't it? It can't be both.
Right.
And if you acknowledge the fact that to look this way, that your focus, your willpower, your energy, your time are going to your physique, it can't go other places too. Right. And there are other people who enjoy other things in life that we fitness people don't. That's where their willpower, focus, energy, and time are going. Right? So it takes a certain mindset, not just have a great physique and then just blow it off to have a great life. It's how you do it all together. And I tell you, it starts with how you set up the game. You got to set up as an and situation, and either subconsciously or consciously, you can't make it an or situation. I think a lot of people in fitness, they don't care about anything else. You ask them like, oh, money isn't important. Money isn't important, right? Well, I guess that's fine. But if you had a client, if you were some type of fitness professional, and they said, oh, getting in shape isn't important, right? I mean, what chance do they have to get in shape with that mindset? It doesn't matter what strategies they have, right? Well, I think that because so much of a fitness person's willpower, focus, energy, and time goes to their body, and they love it. They love it. You talk about that significant. It makes them feel special, unique, and different. It makes them connect with other people to an extent. Right? It takes away the pain of the past or whatever. They found their place, right? They don't want anything else. Well, until later, when they've been saying money doesn't matter, and I'll tell you what, you're 50 years old, money's going to matter. And if you went from, your mid-20s all the way to your 40s or something, saying money doesn't matter, man, you got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
It's a mindset that needs to change. And my book is going to just kind of bring this all out because nobody talks about this. And, just like like now, I mean, like, here you are, putting on this great podcast, you're using technology. Back when I was trying to bust out and make my mark in the fitness industry, I mean, you just had a chance to write for the magazine. You had to be really creative and hardworking, or you had to have a great physique. Making a name for yourself, being heard, you didn't have the access that you have today. I mean, everybody has a chance to set up a podcast and a video and become influential. And that's great.
And it's global.
That's great. Things are changing. People are earning money now, whether it's through Amazon or their podcast or their YouTube views, or maybe they create an ebook. Maybe they're an affiliate for some other fitness product because they just do their thing and build their audience, right? There's a lot of avenues, and people are starting to see that. See, back before, people could, they thought it was impossible to make any kind of money doing their passion of fitness. That's what they believed, and that's what happened. Now, that's changed some because now you can see people with gigantic fan bases who are taking advantage of it. Well, it's just somebody made it possible.
Right.
And then other people followed it. I want to think that, I'll tell you what, you probably follow this in drug-free bodybuilding, right? Natural bodybuilding. I mean, the top 5 people have striated glutes. Have you noticed that?
Right, yeah.
Okay. That when I walked on stage with striated glutes in 1994, everybody freaked out. Like, no way, he's drug-free, right? You know what I mean? And now it's 22 years later, and everybody has striated glutes. And I had to get all the crap for it. Like, it was impossible, right? And everybody knows now that that's not a drug thing. That's how hard you want to diet down and give up muscle mass, right? And like I said, so there's an example. Times have changed. I want to believe that I influenced that over the years, right? That getting lean was possible, even if you're a drug-free bodybuilder. Now we're seeing that there's avenues to live your passion, to help other people, be in fitness, and if you're creative and you're resourceful and tenacious and great, you can earn a living doing. I don't know what it is you do, Mark, but is that part of your plan?
That's what I'm doing at the moment. I used to work a regular office job, and then I had a goal to do this because to get in, I was already training, so I thought I really want to make a living off it. So started being a personal trainer, then I took it online, created digital products and so forth.
Right. Okay.
That's it, But you're talking about...
That's awesome. And you saw other people doing it. You're going to set an example for other people too. Well, my book, it's Man Trust Confessions of a Recovering Bodybuilder. I want us to, as fitness people, become fit, live our passion. And I'm not necessarily talking about people who want to become fitness professionals, although it's definitely included, is how to have those other things in life too. Why did we get into this? Everybody has a story, and sometimes those stories are similar. I always say that sometimes fitness, we look at it as this luxury yacht. We just found our place, right? And sometimes for a lot of us, we whether we realize it or not, it's emotion. It's our emotional savior in a lot of ways, and a lot of people will just admit that openly. The challenge is when you get into the whole fitness lifestyle for that emotional healing, and you treat it like it's a luxury yacht. You should look at it as a very you're thankful and appreciative, but it's really a life raft. Because if you stay on this too long, into your 40s or whatever, you're gonna dig yourself into a hole for the rest of your life. And from my vantage point, I see a lot of people doing that. I want to help younger guys like you, people who are 21 years old, to believe that there is a way to do both, not either or. And it's very important how they think about this and they set out their career, because I want them to have happy, fruitful lives while they're dedicated. They're folks. I'm not saying just to be, soft and not intense and not be disciplined, but have a bigger picture, a bigger plan with how this is going to piece together for your entire life. Yeah.
And but you've made this transition that you're talking about, that going from bodybuilding to other areas. You've done it, but I would assume that you've done it through still setting goals, right? You must be a big goal setter, but you just do it for other areas, right?
Yeah, goal setting, yeah, it's important for everything. But I'll tell you, dealing with so many men, I have a weekly coaching program where I coach men every single week, and we break down all their goals in life. It's really been the greatest thing, for me too, personally, because you get involved in the whole process with so many people. Again, it's that vantage point. You start figuring out how this life thing really works, right? One thing about me, being into personal development for so many years, I know a lot of people, you know how to be motivated and set goals and those type of things. I think the biggest challenge by the motivational speakers, I'm not blaming this on the motivational speakers. It's just that information is generic to life. It's, find your passion, be persistent, whatever, right? And that's for the hairdresser, the bodybuilder, the person who wants to become an actress, a radio star, a mother and a family, or whatever, right? And so
it's universal
information. See, the thing is that we don't have the objectivity or perspective on our life to maybe choose the right vehicle, and we may not even know the reasons why we're doing it. So it's kind of like, sometimes putting a kid, into a race car, and then hopefully he figures it out, right? And you see that all the time, right? You see an actress or rock recording star, Amy Winehouse, right? I mean, I'm sure she set goals. She executed goals. She had talent. Probably came out of challenges too in her head, and this healed some of those, right? Just amazing at what she is. Obviously, to achieve that level, she's disciplined, goal setting, talented, all those motivational things. But what happens sometimes we achieve our goals, we got into that race car, and we realize that isn't what I wanted. That didn't make me happy. And then it becomes even worse. And people kill themselves, literally, directly or indirectly with drugs, because when we go on a goal, we just assume that's going to make us happy. We assume. We have no reference. We haven't done it yet.
Yep.
And so then we go on this goal, and we have to be persistent. We have to work hard. It was just a guess when we started on it 5 years before, 10 years before. I tell you, sometimes we get there and we go, wow, this didn't make me happy. It happens all the time, especially with people who are real achievers. And I talk about this a lot in my book too. There's nothing worse than really working hard, getting a lot of praise. You're doing well. You took your shots. You were up, down, all around, and you succeeded. And you're appreciative. Trust me, you're appreciative. But man, for the sacrifice, is this all there is? And that's comes in, because that's when you have to get up and come up with a new plan. And you became really good at something, just say your fitness, and you already know, you probably knew 5 years before that, okay, this is great, but this isn't going to take me to the promised land. You knew, but until the rest of your life sucked so much, you didn't even start considering other things, right? You have something competing for your time and attention. You can go suck at something else, start at the bottom, but you always have this place that you're Superman. You're the man. People love you. They admire you. What are you going to do? Are you going to go back to what you know, right, and be great at it and feel great when you're in it? Or are you going to let that go enough so you can be really bad at something and go through the normal process like everybody else? Man, you better really know why you're doing the new goal. Most people, you got one shot at something, you make it. And you see this all the time. They don't know what to do next. They're afraid to come up with a new goal because that last one, they were successful at it, and didn't make them happy, right? And that's what a lot of that I went through. I respect, how much I influenced you, because I did a lot of work from the business side to position myself with AST, all the contests, to be in that kind of shape on that cover, to be, 1 out of 2. And actually, I was the one guy for AST. I'm the one who hand selected Jeff to get him in on there, right? So,
okay, right.
I went through a lot of holes to get there. I appreciate it, but that doesn't even come close to have the happy overall life that I wanted. And, you got to get back in there and pick yourself up. So, you talk about those goals. I really, those are generic. And anybody, look, if you pick goals and you're willing to work hard, you're probably ahead of most people. People are afraid to set goals. And then if they set goals and they kind of know their why, or at least their best guess of why it's so important to them, then you got to stay like confident through the ups and downs to keep on keeping on, to give it enough time, be consistent,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough enough already. And so working hard is good, setting goals towards those. But I'll tell you this, if you don't know what's really driving you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we always say it's something positive. I want to change the world. But what I've discovered with people, and this is, a lot of people have said this, that the we will do more to get out of pain than whatever these, you know,
To go after pleasure.
yeah, these
Right.
lofty goals. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to touch other people's lives. It's
Yeah.
usually something that we want. If we don't want to experience a certain pain, or we want to get out of it so bad. That's real driving force.
Right.
And the more a person can know that, you can't get that from motivational speaking, because they don't deal with you and your issues. They let you decide how to take all this power and all this time that you're going to dedicate it and do with it what you may. You may guess wrong. That's why I'm a big fan of coaching, for objectivity and perspective of someone you trust, someone who's skilled, because you got two brains looking at your scenario, that it's more than just motivation. And I get, no matter what I've done in areas of my life, I coach people all over the world, but I also get coaching. I get coaching.
Okay.
And so, because we're in our world, we got to kind of understand why we do it. I mean, if you would have asked me why I became so successful in bodybuilding, and, success is relative. I didn't go for it to try to be like the top guys. I wanted to be the top guy in my, the big fish in the little pond. That's only how much I wanted it. I wasn't willing to be successful at that bigger level. So it's all relative. But if you
Right.
were to ask me what I thought back then, what was my driving force versus 13 years removed,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole lot different of understanding myself more, of what drives me. Now, a lot of people say, well, could I have still achieved, as much as I did, knowing what I know now about, me and my journey? And, I don't know, because you would have to live two different lives. But if I would have wanted it, I don't see why not, right?
Okay.
But sometimes, we do things and we don't really know why we're doing this. And for me, I was getting out a lot of pain, and I didn't really, understand all that. People would say, well, how can he look that way? Man, if a person's really driven, it's just incredible what they can accomplish. And, I saw myself, I'm a thinking man's bodybuilder. I would write articles. I didn't take drugs or whatever. But really, I was a guy that was escaping, a lot of life that didn't work out well for me in my early 20s. And I was young, I was optimistic, but I was not willing to get back in the game of regular life.
Oh,
And so
okay.
bodybuilding was it kind of put me on pause, right? I had
Right.
not getting into relationships deeply or committing in those type of ways. And, so I might have dressed up. I want to be the world's best known drug-free bodybuilder. I want to change lives. I want to help other people. I'm not saying I did not want to do that, but what
Yeah.
made me more dedicated, more focused, and have the longevity for so long was probably I didn't want to get back into regular life. And as long as I was doing well here, I'll do that later. Make sense?
It was almost like an escape mechanism, to
Yeah,
get away from.
definitely.
There's
And
the saying that.
when people achieve things, this is not just with bodybuilding training, with everything. There is that element of escape. If anything, it's that escape from the demons in our head, right? There are people who are massively wealthy, right? And you hear the story all the time. They came from a poor family.
Mhm.
And the thought of going through that pain or putting their children through pain, they did what it takes. It's that tight. That's what gets people to take action and become great. I mean, you can show me anybody, you can show me the best talented person in the world, and you told me he didn't make anything of his life, wouldn't surprise me because of all these things we're talking about. If you told me a guy with so little seemingly resources who put it all together that achieved something outrageous, right, wouldn't surprise me either. That's how powerful the mind is. And, there's some people that have achieved a lot, and I'll just tell you, Mark, you wouldn't want to be in their head. because
Oh, sure. I
so
believe
you
it.
have so many demons going on that they had to be massively successful to just feel good about themselves.
The cope.
So, yeah, success, it's all relative and it's all our personal journey. And the more we can understand why things are important to us, the better chance we can do it elegantly and joyfully. It's one thing to
Right.
do it. That's a huge thing to be able to do it. But do it elegantly and knowing why. So, we get there and we're proud and happy, and then we go on to the next phase. That's hard. That's a
Maybe to understand that the purpose of a goal isn't actually to achieve it, because if you achieve it, you might realize that you're not truly fulfilled. That the purpose of a goal is the person that you're going to become in that process. You're going to grow and expand and become more. And you can take that to the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah. You know what? I think that's the best point is you could take it. Uh, I think the the understanding is when you started on the goal, it was a guess. Right?
Right.
The next one's going to be a guess. Right? It's going to have to keep on trying, keep on trying. Get out of your comfort zone and say, okay, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I'll take it to our bodybuilding training world. And maybe you've seen this with fitness experts who, I don't know, maybe they're coaches. Maybe they've been training for 10 years. And they're supposed to, and they really pride themselves on being, the smartest people of the group, right?
Right.
Got their videos and their podcasts, and they're acting like, I'll tell you, you can know a lot about training and diet and all the science, but if you haven't had a whole lot of life experience, you're going to maybe look at the world differently later on. Let's just put it that way, right? And so they come up with these theories. Like, for example, that person was really good competing, and they only did it for 2 years. And then they couldn't handle it. Have you heard experts or gurus in bodybuilding say things like that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. And what do they normally attribute it to? The reason why they only did it for 2 years and they didn't reach their full potential and they were doing it 10 years later. I mean, have you heard that enough to kind of think what?
No, what was it? They're not doing it 10 years later?
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't driven by that anymore. Is that what you mean?
Well, definitely driven, but they'll try to put it to like strategies, like they didn't have a balanced life, or they learned the wrong strategies. Right. They didn't have a flexible diet, right? What they want to kind of attribute to is that they would have had the right training and eating strategies or whatever, then they would have been to it forever. And that is so not true. Right. The thing about it, some people compete for 10 years. They kill themselves. They go for that trophy. And then after 10 years, they say, all right, I got everything out of it. And maybe this was okay, but I need to move on to other things because 10 years of this isn't getting me to the promised land, isn't getting me to that happiness. It's good. I appreciate it, but I'm done after 10 years, right? You can understand saying that, right?
Yeah, you can't be driven by that anymore.
10 years, they probably came close to whatever their genetic potential, whatever, that means. Understand, Mark, that some people can come to that realization after one contest season. This is a nice little gig, but this ain't going to make me happy, right? They don't need 10 years of killing themselves to understand there's a million ways to be happy. There's a million different routes that you can take, not just entering bikini contests or training contests, right? And it has nothing to do with if they had a flexible diet or not, right? And that's everything we do is to make us happy, right? It's so important. The more you can line up these factors or block out other things, right? You'll be great at your bodybuilding and training, right? And my belief in with my coaching, right? It's life coaching. The attraction is they have a respect and we have a mutual passion for fitness. We're birds of a feather, but it's life coaching. When you can understand what you're doing and how it works in the big pictures, you can be amazing. It all fits its purpose, right? And so I guess it goes back to the statement is that you could, with all the discipline that you exhibited for bodybuilding and training, and it looks like you're doing that as you go to the next stages, right? I mean, I'm available for podcast all the time, right? Nobody takes the time to think outside the box. Do this. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just not that interesting. I don't know. Right? But you were, right?
Right.
So, you know, we could use that resourcefulness and determination, everything that, but do we? So, you know, I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of do the eating every couple hours, one more rep, physique getting better, the abs are getting more etched, and they think that's going to just naturally transfer to starting a podcast or branching off to a family and business. It's not, right? It doesn't just work that way. And the more
But it can.
down in your comfort zone, like you talked about, right?
Right.
You're going to be great at fitness. You dedicate a lot of time to it.
Right.
And then when you start that other thing, you're going to be like a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 in comfort and being in your zone, your genius zone with the whole fitness thing. And you're going to go into business and you're going to suck. And it's not going to feel good, especially if you have a good, fun place where you belong to run to. That's where the challenge is going to come in, right?
Right. So the coaching, where do people go for that? You offer live coaching. Where is that? At your website?
Yeah, I do. Let me just say this is that because it's such a personal nature, I mean, I'm talking them 52 weeks in a row. We do it for a year. And I don't change my schedule. So if it's, you know, if it's every Friday at 9 a.m., I'm going to leave that. If I commit to it, I'm committed. You know, that's the thing I like about bodybuilding training is the rigidness and the structure. Because life throws you all kinds of curveballs. I want to be that dependable force in their life. I want them to know we're going to talk about their life every Friday at 9 o'clock or whatever, right? So it's a real commitment on my part and their part, right? So, you know, before I take anybody on, it isn't like how much they're willing to pay, and it doesn't matter if they want to give it a shot. One thing as a leader, as a coach, whether this is fitness or not, what I take a lot of responsibility for is I don't take anybody on who's not ready.
Right.
Because they might see my passion and my knowledge and then but I took them on because they weren't ready and then they fail. And I'm sure this is not the first time they've failed. This might be the 11th time. I'm not going to be responsible for giving them their 11th references of trying and failing, because it's going to be harder and harder for them to ever do it if they keep on failing. So a lot of people are going to ask me about coaching. I'll be more than happy. If I'm going to be having a relationship with them for a year, I'll talk to them. I take them through goal setting sessions. A lot of times they'll just do this for free if I get the sense that they're serious, right? And I have ways of knowing that, because that hour and a half, it's a great session for them. I get them clear. I get them focused on their lives. It's great for them, right? They can walk away, never have coaching for me, and they don't have an hour and a half with someone as passionate and as skilled as me, asking these questions, again, from that vantage point that I have, who's a lot of times just like them, you know, gone in the same path as them. That's what creates the connection, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to have a conversation like that in the real world. When I talk to people and they've never had a conversation like this, ever. Because most times when you talk to your friends, number one, they're not skilled. Number two, even if they care, they don't care that much. And when you're talking, they're just kind of waiting for you to finish so they can kind of throw in a unique experience. And again, the person can walk away from that call and learn so much about themselves. Now, during that call, I kind of evaluate a lot of things. It's like, how clear are they on what it is they want in life, right? Mm-hmm. How much are they connected to the pleasure? But also, really, how much do they want to get out of pain? There's a lot of people who can't let them get excited. Oh, that's great. They tone it down. Okay, I get it. You know, we've gotten our hopes up before, and we've been disappointed. We kind of, you know, soften the excitement. But here's the double whammy is when, you know, we failed before or we're settling and it's painful. Our life isn't progressing the way we want, but we dull the pain. Because pain motivates us. It drives us more than the exciting things.
Right.
And so they dull the pleasure, they dull the pain, and so they're just right in the middle. That's a horrible emotional place to be in to create change. Right? So they got to be clear. I got to believe that they must change now, because then we have to do the work week by week by week. Mm-hmm. Right? And so those are the things. So that gets an idea of coaching and what I do. Yeah, it's life coaching. The thing about it is, and I do a lot of things because a lot of people can't afford the time or the investment in coaching. And so, with fitness people, especially if they want to be coaches, I said, well, how can they need this stuff. I probably know they need this stuff more than they do, right? And they want to do this. They want to be in the fitness industry 25 years from now. And so what I did, I created a digital course. I know you talked about that. And I call it Fitness Expert to Life Coach Step by Step. And it'd be perfect for someone like you who wants to expand the base of fitness. I say use your body to grab their attention, but use your mind to change their lives, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's incorporating what I call fitness-centered life coaching, right? And it's a course. It's 47 hours, edited hours, right? And all videos. It'll really teach you how to a real legitimate fitness business. Not just diets and training routines. I don't even talk about that because I'm sure the diet and training program that you give your clients is great. But its mindset is everything. And then your confidence level as a business person, how you negotiate deals, right? How you step into their mind. And one thing that I really get the person who invests, all the people who invest in this program over those 40 hours, and it's many, many videos into in separate sections. It's very well organized. I mean, this is the foundation that you can create a thriving, real business. Not some personal trainer type attitude that you're wondering, well, what am I going to do 10 years from now? Not this, but I love it. I mean, a real business that you can do when you get older and do it with pride, because it's not just fitness; it's about life, right? But what I really stress is that the person doesn't come to you, for the muscles or the ripped abs or the tight butt. That's not what they want. Sure, they want that, but at some level, they believe that if they had those big muscles, ripped abs, and a tight butt, that will be the starting point for these feelings and emotions that they want most. Right. And that could be love and connection, feeling that they belong, getting rid of the pain of the past, knowing that they've done something with their life, that maybe they're getting older and their high school reunion is coming up, and that's a benchmark to make them think their life hasn't gone anywhere. And so they think, well, if I can look better, at least that'll get me to start doing something. Or maybe they broke up in a relationship, and it just means, I want to work on me. I want to look better. I want to attract a better mate. I want to get out of this pain of a relationship. It means love and connection, and certainly getting out of the pain. That's why they're coming to you. That's why it's not the car that we drive that we want so badly. It's certainly not the purse that the woman has that she paid all that money for, or the shoes. It's not the big house, or sometimes even the private school we send our kids to. It's the way it makes us feel about ourselves. Right. Accomplished. We're never like our mom. We're not going to be poor anymore, right? Or I belong. I made something out of myself. I'm no longer the nerd. Right. And that's why they come to us to reach the fitness goals, whether they realize or not.
They don't. I don't think they do. I mean,
understand that. Yeah. And you can help them align that. Everything comes easy. Because come on, what is it? Just work out on a consistent basis. Do a little less of this, more of this. Don't put that in your mouth. Do whatever the stuff they already want to do. And I really think the biggest challenge that most fitness coaches do is they don't go into that area, and they double down and make everything about the training routine and like make it more and more and more intense and more specific and more scientific, where, I believe that's great, but I mean, you can get somebody with a great mindset that knows what they're doing, and they could get a training strategy that's a 7 out of 10. They don't need your 10 plus training strategy, get results, and you see it all the time, right? But that's because the person, they have the mindset, how it all fits in. And that's what this whole program, 47 hours, it's a lifetime membership online, course. It's 47 hours to help you, again, attract them, use your body. They admire your discipline, your energy. They want some of that. Use your body to grab their attention, but use your mind to change your life, and incorporating these life coaching skills. And I'll tell you this, that's probably helped me take my life to the next level, is when you're helping other people. You can't help but get clues for yourself. Right? So
it's like Ziglar said, you know, you can have
a
everything.
lot of things here, right?
Right. Well, it reminds me of Ziglar. He said, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want, you know. And I think you're talking about happiness. I think I find a lot of happiness in my work because when I help other people get what they want,
Yes.
you know, there's good karma there. It comes back and people give me positive feedback and makes me feel good, you know.
Right, right. And, you know, you talk about Tony Robbins' 6 human needs. I mean, once you get the first 2 and then the second 2 in order, the last 2 is contribution to other people. And, you know, I definitely feel I'm in that stage. I mean,
Right.
But I will tell you this sometimes too, is a lot of us in the fitness industry, it is about giving to other people, but we're still healing ourselves. It makes us belong. It makes us feel special, unique, and different. And when it all looks the same, but it's a big difference. And you know, it's something you talked about these human needs, and you talked about people who go into the fitness industry, and that's the human need of wanting to be special, unique, and different, right? And then there's that need for connection and belonging. Well, what happens when you're an insecure guy, maybe had some challenges in life, or gal, right? And you see this and you become this bikini competitor, or you're this bodybuilder, this fitness expert. You step up on a stage, you get your YouTube channel, you have your social media, you start helping other people. Well, guess what? You become special, unique, and different, right? Awesome. You get praise, people admire you, and those type of things. But it's inevitable that's going to disconnect you from the pack. Whether it's your friends or family or your girlfriend who knew you before you worked out or whatever it is, or the average people who aren't going for it. You were one of them before. Now you separate yourself from the pack, and guess what? Now you're disconnected.
Right.
So now you're special, unique, and different. Now you're disconnected, and you see it all over the internet. Someone who looks amazing. They're killing it, right? They're a force. Everything that they wanted. They look amazing. They're helping other people, like you said. And all it takes is one person to say something about them, and it just crushes them. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, it's very, very true because they're so fragile. Their whole ego has been built upon this image, and if someone comes along and crushes that image, they're defeated, you know.
And intellectually, you know, look, you can't please everybody. And one thing that I'm very anti, I don't care who believes in this philosophy, is use the haters to drive you. That's very common in our fitness business. And I'll just tell you this. First of all, I don't think people really care about you enough to be going to the hate category, right? Now, I'll tell you something. You know, you might represent someone who's going for it. Maybe they don't like your training philosophy. Maybe you're a science guy and they're pro or something like that. Maybe they think you're too stoic. Maybe they think you go for money and they don't, or whatever it is, right? All you do is represent to them a style of life, values, rules, paths that they don't think is important, or they would do it. And they got a choice at that moment. They can say, wow, my life sucks. I need to be like Mark. And most people won't. They'll double down on the way. They're going to be a hater. Some of them say it. Some of them don't. Most people just go away if you're not their cup of tea. Yeah. Some will, on their way out, they'll give you a pot shot. But to think you're going to get 100% approval, that's the interesting thing. And I can name a couple people in this fitness industry that, why do you care about what one person says? And again, if you start conditioning yourself, the motivator, the haters, they drive me, right? Well, if you need to be driven in that way, motivation is like a drug. You got to keep on taking it to higher and higher levels, right? Or you know what I'm saying? You can't just stay still. You know, pretty soon you're going to need more and more haters with more and more intense hate. And you'll start looking for it. You'll start even twisting stories that everybody becomes a hater because you need that motivation. I say, look, don't even go down that path. Don't even get addicted to haters. Don't even see the world as haters.
Yeah.
Right? That's a bad thing to use to drive you, because at what price are you going to be motivated? Oh, wow, you got big muscles and you do a lot of videos because the haters drive you?
It just seems it's negative.
Horrible life, right?
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of other ways to number one, there's a lot of better ways to motivate yourself that are longer lasting, that are internal with you. You got plenty of stuff going on in your own head. You don't need to get everybody else's problems into your head, right?
Right.
But man, what a miserable existence, to condition yourself to look for haters. And again, you'll turn reality into everybody's a hater. Oh,
I think it's, yeah.
Hater. He disagreed with my training style. Oh, he's just a hater, right? You see this all the time. These are the type of things, as a elder statesman who's been doing this for so long and hung around, has a very long career in fitness. A lot of you guys were kind of just little kids when I was doing my thing, right? But I stayed in it. I continue to try to contribute my experience, my knowledge, my insight, again, in more than just the sets and reps. And I'll tell you, there's not a lot of people in my position, right? Either they've gone around, I guess, to do other things. I don't know, because they're not around in the fitness world anymore, or they just have the same mindset. They're just older. I want to believe that I grew up and I matured and I have more to it. I want to use that experience, to change our way of thinking. And I'll tell you, that hater thing, I just think that's going to burn you out before your time. And it's not even true, I don't think.
I think it's more a positive thing to be driven by, as you say, something internal. If you have your life attached to a higher purpose, I think you need to have a purpose for your own life. You can be driven by that, and the purpose becomes so big, it puts your life in a larger context. So when a hater comes along and you get criticized, it doesn't mean anything to you. It's like water off a duck's back, because you're so focused on this larger context. So you're not going to get, your ego is not going to be destroyed.
It is true, but I'll tell you this, that hater just represents something inside of you that you don't need them. Like, for example, if you need to succeed, you want to use your potential. Maybe you wasted it in your early, you got off to a bad start. That was me in my early 20s. Right. I grew up thinking myself a certain way, and a couple bad breaks in my early 20s, right? And I wasn't going to go out that way, right? So when I ran into bodybuilding, that was a way that this is more of a representation of what I'm all about, and it's led me to where I am right now. See, I got my own stuff going on in my own head to motivate me to get over that pain and go towards, making a difference in the world like you talked about. I don't need other people, because I got that storm going on in my own head that we all do, that we can just worry about ourselves and tame our own thoughts in our own mind. You don't need other people to do all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, your website is skiplacour.com, is that right?
I do. I have several websites, and
for the coaching though, and the book, where's the book going to be?
If anybody has heard anything on this podcast, that gets them excited, probably the best thing is email me at skip@skiplacour.com, skip@skiplacour.com. I'm going, to talk about coaching and taking, my skills to the next level. I have business coaching. And so one thing is, I got a lot of good things that are kind of like everywhere. SkipLacour.com is great for bodybuilding information. But I have a website called SkipLacourCoaching.com, right?
Yeah.
But you can get a hold of me through coaching, but it talks about my coaching program. The program that I talk about, that digital course that can fitness expert to life coach, step by step, you can go to fitnessexperttolifecoach.com, fitnessexperttolifecoach.com, and read all about that. And that has a great blog. So if you're a fitness professional, even if you didn't invest in the course, there's great information there. But I'll tell you, probably this is the best way. My preferred platform is Facebook, right? It gets everywhere, from Snapchat, Skip LaCour, Instagram, Skip LaCour, Twitter, Skip LaCour, YouTube @Skip LaCour. LinkedIn, right? Everything, I'm dabbling and spraying and praying in all directions, right? But if you go to @Skip LaCour page, @Skip LaCour page on Facebook, that's my public page, I guess my fan page or whatever you want to call it. All my stuff starts there.
Okay.
And
I'm going
to
to.
contact me to know everything that I'm doing, at least at this point. So that would be facebook.com/Skip LaCour page. You get everything there.
I'm going to transcribe this podcast, and I'll give all the links on the transcription. So, folks, when you're listening to this, please go to musclehack.com/podcast-008. I'm going to transcribe this podcast, and I'll give all the links to Skip's social media, his websites, coaching program. I'll have everything there. Skip, can we finish on something fitness?
Sure. I was
I
thinking that myself, Mark, is,
I know.
we just started talking, and it seems like we're both passionate about personal development. And this might be a good change, but I have to always remind myself of that too. If you go to my Facebook page, Skip LaCour, I always have to make sure I give them what they want, and that's fitness. So I could do this again if you like. We could just make sure we only talk about fitness. But sure, okay. What questions do you have for me about fitness? I'd love to help there too.
Well, I just want to go through the body, right? I'm going to give you a body part. I just want you to tell me what you think is the most effective one exercise, or your preferred exercise for each body part, right?
For each body part?
Right. So let's start with the delts. One exercise.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of thinking, like, what's technically effective. You know what I would say? I would say that, most of them hit the body part, especially if you love it, you become great at it, you put that passion and zeal, maybe you feel really confident in it. So I wonder if you told me for every body part, I'll probably come up with logic, but it's probably an emotional reason, right? So to answer first for delts, I love dumbbell shoulder presses. What I would say the reason why is I love the challenge of the weight, but I also like how it moves. The arms move independently of each other, the limbs. So each shoulder, it's a challenge to make sure they all balance. If you used, a military bar, one could dominate, it can still get up. And if you really weren't really sensory acute to the feel, or you didn't actually see yourself, it would seem like you're being just as efficient because you got the bar up and down. But really, one arm might have had a slightly better form or was stronger. So I like the independent of each limb with dumbbell presses.
Would you prefer seated or standing for those?
Seated. I mean,
yeah, me too.
It's not only that I prefer. I haven't really done anything more in all my years. I'm sure I've done standing, but once I did seated, that's just what I know. So that's more of a preference, and not even remembering what standing even feel like, to be perfectly honest.
I think I just prefer the stability. I feel more stable whenever I'm in a seated position for those. Okay, so what about biceps then?
For back?
Biceps.
Dumbbell curls, probably for a lot of the same reasons, right? I mean, a lot of times people, do the curl in each arm, but we don't normally have the same coordination in each arm. One elbow might be a little bit flared out than the other, so I like the challenge. I like the independence of dumbbell curls.
Triceps.
I don't really like triceps because that's an exercise when you tax yourself. I'm probably like a lot of other people. I hate that where it just seems to come every once in a while, that feeling in your elbows. And I hate loading up bars just to put myself through pain. So I like tricep pushdowns. It's easy. I could feel it. It feels safe, right? So probably tricep pushdowns, cable tricep pushdowns.
Yeah, me too. I use a cable for that as well. Chest,
it's probably dumbbell press. Probably for the same reasons as overhead press and bicep curls, because each one is independent. It's challenging. I'm good at that exercise, right? So on an incline too. Are you asking me? I wonder if every answer I'm giving is really
it's going to be dumbbell
and mechanically or scientifically what's the best. Anyway.
Well, there was a study that showed that using dumbbells actually will recruit more. For the chest, will recruit more muscle fibers.
Right.
Probably because you can take it a little bit deeper when you can with the bar. You can go a little bit deeper if you're using dumbbells,
Uh-huh.
So dumbbells are better for chest, but everybody seems to think that the fundamental is a barbell bench press. But I would prefer using dumbbells.
Yeah, and that's the reason why you're going to always have one side that's more dominant than the other. You're not going to hold your elbow I mean, unless you're really good, right? It's going to have a different feel. You might feel one in one shoulder. I think it's just easier to execute when they're independent of each other. But it's the same movement. I don't like single limb movements. Like kickbacks, right? You do one arm, then you do the other arm, where they're independent. I like them working independently of each other, but it's the same.
At the same time, yeah.
Right.
Right, I get it. So, what about abdominals then?
What's that?
Abdominals.
Abs. I don't know. You know what probably is the most challenging is getting a dumbbell and doing leg lifts.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, that's probably the best, but that takes a lot of work. I'll tell you, the best ab exercise that I would say is lift heavy because you're tightening that core, and watch your diet, and that can do a great, sometimes a lot more direct work and display your abs more than any type of direct weighted work. So
yeah, me personally, people ask me about doing special movements for the side of the abs and stuff. I don't recommend any of that. I don't think it's necessary whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're doing something just for your obliques. Totally unnecessary, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw a guy doing that today, and I thought of that same thing where he got a 45-pound weight.
Yeah.
That. I'll tell you, you want to have thick abs, right? So everybody doesn't. But once they get to a certain thickness, I mean, really, they work indirectly with heavy training. I mean, you diet, you're gonna have a great set of abs, right? It's just
exactly.
It's just getting a layer of fat off of them to show how great they are. So.
Right. Okay. So what about the back?
Back, I love barbell rows, probably. Although I don't think that's not consistent with those other exercises. But I just like to load it up, get it over with. That's probably my favorite back exercise, barbell rows.
Mostly the legs overall, I would assume, would be a squat, right?
No, I'm not. That's probably the best. You're right, especially when you execute it well. I have never been a great squatter, and I don't put all this emotion, and my whole identity is squat till you drop. But I mean, I'm not one of those guys, right? I do it. Right. I look at it just like any other exercise. It is probably the best exercise. It's not my best exercise, but it's something I've always done, right? So, yeah, I would say that's the best exercise. But
you've probably noticed, and I have too, there's some trainees who, it's probably just because of the way that their biomechanics is, they're never going to be great at squatting no matter what. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the little caveat that I put to it. If you're not passionate about it, you're not good at it. But even more than anything, we always, see the internet about don't skip leg day. Well, unless you get your identity from squats and leg day, I mean, most people are not as intense. I don't care what they try to tell themselves for legs. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that is. It takes a lot of weight to really overload them, and it's probably more scary than a lot of things. And also the old thing, you can cover them up, right? So it's not that glamour body part. It takes a lot of work. And if you don't push yourself because you want it really badly, well, you're never going to figure out how to do the perfect squat. A lot of people will never. And so if they want to round out their physique, the best exercise for them may be leg press, right? Where it's safer, right? Especially if they're never going to, whether they realize it or not, they're never going to be mentally into squats to really get better and better. And then you might as well, wherever you're confident in squat leg press, right? And it's not, it's a hack squat because you'll be more into it. You'll challenge yourself more.
Right.
The purpose isn't, unless you're a power lifter, we're bodybuilders. We're results driven most of the time. We want this physique that looks a certain way. How we train is the process. Now, again, the more effective and efficient you train, the better results you should have. But at the same time, if you're not going to put your heart and soul into the squats, whether you realize it or not, if you can develop your legs with a leg press or a hat squat, because you feel safer or whatever your reasons are, well, that's going to lead you to the results more than kind of half-assing squats mentally and physically, right? So That's going to give them the challenge of anything being the best exercise.
Right.
It's kind of like the best routine. The best routine is the one you love, you're pushing yourself, and that you're going to do on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah, it's a fair point, yeah. And you know, the leg press is actually the exact same mechanics as a squat. Your body's in a different position, but it's the exact same mechanics on your legs. And I tell people,
You know, I look at it that way, but you notice how on leg press, the same guy who says you got to drop, I drop below parallel. And it's funny, you look on the internet, anytime you see someone's going to post a video of them, right, and it's squats, right? You already know this guy's butt is going to be so low if he's going to put it on the internet, right?
right,
I mean, his butt is going to not just hit, it's going to hit the floor. It might even go 1 inch below the floor if he's putting it on the internet. I already know it. I laugh every time. Watch this squat. It's going to be past textbook, right? I mean, people are just so, I don't know. It's more insecurity driven sometimes, we bodybuilders, right? But you notice that same person, he doesn't even go down like hardly at all on the leg press, right? Mm-hmm. So when you say it's the same thing, they don't put the same emphasis on the depth, right? Mm-hmm. Is that just me? Have you noticed that?
Well, I see people not put the depth in on squat as well, unless it's on YouTube.
I think that the internet has told us we're a wimpy little pussy if we don't squat past parallel and pause at the bottom, right? But it's okay to just go down, load up the rack, have somebody stand on it, and just go down, a few inches. That's kind of acceptable. Am I right?
Right, yeah.
That gets a pass. So it's just interesting you said it's like the same exercise. I don't think people generally, sounds like you do, I don't think people generally treat those the same at all.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's move to calves. What do you do? What's your favorite?
Calves, probably seated calf raises. Probably, if you ask me why, I don't know. I like sitting down.
It's comfortable, right?
Yeah. And that's a close second to standing calf raises because all I have to do is adjust the rack, put in a pin. That's even easier, right?
Okay, so I think that's everything.
Okay.
So the body parts. I'm kind of curious before I go because you had an experience in your early 20s, and I guess it changed you. There's a saying that there's a pain that hurts you, and there's a pain that changes you. Two types of pain: one that hurts you, and one that changes you. For me, I remember I read something, and it was like the beginning of the whole personal development thing, and I want to know if you had a similar experience. I basically got the idea, I read it somewhere, that I become what I think about, basically, right? Did you have an experience like that, or what was the experience? Was there a moment or something where you got into this self-improvement stuff?
Yeah, I think that if I look back, this is what I would say with me. So I went to this private high school where it was all boys, one of those, those Catholic schools that, you probably know, the elite school. And I played sports there. And so you grow up with, kids. My parents weren't wealthy, but, a lot of so you have wealthy doctors and successful parents who have the kids you're going to. So it breeds a certain belief that, you're, I guess, the more thriving members of society. They pass it along to their kids. Mm-hmm. And like 98.6 of them went on to college. It was a prep school, right? And so I had my room in college at this private college. My parents ran out of money. And I have a brother who's 11 months older who went the year before. He just barely made it in before, my parents couldn't afford it, right? But unfortunately, it didn't just happen that way. And it was just a horrible time for me because all of a sudden I went from a guy who was great in sports and thinking he was, I don't know, part of the chosen group. And then I was working at a restaurant. Now I worked hard because I've always been a hard worker, and I became the manager, working like 55 hours a week at 19 years old. And then I said, well, I'm going to piece together. I went to junior college, right? And I even got a part-time job. Like within a about a month of each other. I got robbed at gunpoint at both different places, right? 19,
Wow.
hello world, right? And then it did improve because the guy came into the restaurant and said, you know, you got something about you. You should come work for this grocery store chain, right? Well, I did do that. I became the youngest manager in that chain when I became 27. Because I worked hard and everything like that, but I never saw myself as a grocery store employee. Wearing the green smock, and maybe if you saw the Tony Robbins infomercial that he selected me to be on to represent personal power back in the day, it might be a little bit before your time, but it says Skip LaCour went from grocery store manager, and it had me with the name tag and the green smock.
Oh my, no, I never saw that.
Yeah, you can go to you can put Tony Robbins, Skip LaCour, and that video will come up, the video clip.
I will.
Yeah, all over the world for 3 years, right? Tony Robbins, a guy who knows people, right? Who's helped tons of successful leaders and entertainers from all over the world. He chose me to represent his baby, his product, his dream, his mission to represent that product. As time goes on, I'm thinking, wow, I must be Tony Robbins would pick me to represent his work, right? Out of all the thousands of people he had to choose from he's helped them change their lives, right? But, so that's the story about, I broke out of that. But it's like I was like, I'm better than this. There's more for me. And it's that pain, you're into personal development. I'm curious, have you ever heard of the Dickens formula, where you have?
You imagine yourself on your deathbed or something. Is that it?
Well, if you don't change, it goes back to like Ebenezer Scrooge, right?
Yeah.
The ghost of Christmas future came and he said, if you don't change, and he took him to see how life would be, and Tiny Tim died, and all those type of things because of the way he lived his life, right? And so you go through that thing, how your life would be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in the future if you don't change, if you don't take risk, if you don't go for it, right? And my thing, and this was at a Tony Robbins seminar, right? So this, and my thing was that I got to be older, and I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I didn't wear contacts. I had glasses. I didn't shave my head, and it was gray on the side. And I had to work a night shift at that old age because I didn't have the guts to quit my safe and secure job. And I'll just tell you, in today's dollars, at 27, I was making $115,000 a year in a safe, secure job. So it wasn't easy for me just to quit. I gave up a lot, but my identity was something so much more as a kid. I did not, that was just not me working a grocery store. But then I kind of hung on to it because it was safe and secure. And so when I found bodybuilding, it was my lifeline. I mean, even my sports career, because of all that turmoil in my home, I gave up on the chance to really develop that. And I saw myself as a hard worker. But I had to move out on my own when I was 17 years old, right? So I left so much on the table. And so when bodybuilding came along and I was good at it, oh man, it meant everything in the world to live up to who I really believed I should be. It was me getting out of pain, feeling like a loser. I don't care how much money you paid me. I don't care if you made me the manager. I saw myself as being something more. And here I am bailing boxes and dealing with all this, So that's what really drove me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, the weights and the muscle and the trophies. Looking back, this was just my vehicle to get out of that pain. That, I am a somebody. I am more than this. And it was my path to really prove it and not just say that. So that was my pain. That was my thing. That was my moment.
It's like making a decision to live authentically, because if you didn't change, you would have lived this totally inauthentic life, and you'd never be happy living like that,
Yeah, well, life is tough. It's a challenge. It's a puzzle for everybody. But my Ghost of Christmas Future experience had me, 30 years in the future being, I think I picked out an age that's getting close to where I am right now, and I would have still been working.
Yeah.
or if they didn't fire me. And I saw myself as fat too. I didn't even start working out at that time. Just, I don't know. Yeah. So
I think that's in this
I
book.
kind of brought up several times throughout this, and this is my experience helping other people, is that if you are trying to find out what you want to do with your life, and whether it's fitness, really exploit it or whatever, and really make the most and help other people, you're only using probably a third of your personal power if you just focus on all the positive emotions that'll make you feel. There's probably a reason why this will get you out of so much pain, but you got to accept it and realize it, because they say that's 200% more powerful. Why is this so important? Like, what drives me is that I've got so much talent. I got so many assets, literally and figuratively, on my hard drive. I've written so much material that can change lives. So many blogs. It's all on hard drive after hard drive. We get a new computer and you keep all the hard drives and all. You just bring it over and bring it over. You got all these, terabytes worth of. I've got so much stuff on my hard drive that I have not maximized.
Yeah.
Right. That my pain right now is that I died with all this in me. As you can see, I got a lot of stuff to share. I'm passionate about. And now it's about, being efficient with my time, making use of all the opportunities for exposure, getting as many ears as possible, being exposed to as many eyeballs as possible. I see all these guys, on the internet with their crazy followings, and I want my message to get out. I don't want to die being the best kept secret. And that's what drives me. And also I have a family now. And I want to provide them with the best options in life. And, that's the positive, and that's great. But to know that here I am, like I said, Tony Robbins picks me, 6-time national champion. I've got all this passion, and I didn't use that. And so my kids didn't have the best options because I didn't use it. I ain't going out that way. That pain drives me now, in addition to all great things. And so I just really think all of us need to use all of the forces, all the tools in our toolbox to really understand ourselves. And that's what will get us to really take action and really do whatever it takes to create the lives that we want. And that's with our physical bodies and every aspect of life.
Right. I mean, it would be really nice to believe that we can be driven only by the positive. But here's an example. I heard this one time. What would motivate you more, to earn $10,000 or if someone stole $10,000 from you and you got to get it back? You're going to be more motivated by that pain that someone stole that money,
right,
to go and get it back than it is to earn another $10,000.
Yeah.
So you're motivated more by that negative than you are by the positive. It's just a fact.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you go back to school, I don't know about you, but I had an assignment that I was doing a couple months until I felt the pain at the end. I didn't use all my talents and resources, right? We need our backs up against the wall. That's what gets us to take action. Yeah. So again, it's there anyway, whether we want to cover it up or deaden it. It's there anyway.
Right. It's going to be there anyway. Okay. I've kept you long enough. It's like, this has been.
Yeah. No. My other appointment switched. Then I was going to be blocked in for an hour, but he changed. So this is great. This is fine.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do it again anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something different. It's definitely going to hit a chord with, the people who are interested. But if you want to, but there was enough, fitness stuff in there. And if we want to do one that's just, I don't know what your format is. I want you to send me a link to all your stuff. But we can just talk fitness. As you can tell, I got a lot of stuff to talk about there too.
Yeah, definitely. So for the guys listening, please go to, to get Skip, the best place is Facebook, right?
Yeah. The best place really is my Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/Skip LaCour page. Skip LaCour page, SKIPLACOUR page, PAGE.
Okay. I'll have all the links on the show notes. Guys, to get the show notes, please go to musclehack.com/podcast-008. I'll have everything there, the whole transcript of this podcast, and all the links to Skip's site, social media, everything. Skip, this has been really fun for a start. It's good to speak to someone with a similar mindset, you know. It's like-minded people. I don't meet people like this very often, you know.
No, I really enjoyed it, Mark. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.